My name is Joshua Ryan. I am the head of the Thriving Communities programme at NASP. And what the Thriving Communities programme aims to do is to support grassroots social delivery on the ground, where it really matters, where we're doing the most incredible work and helping lives on a daily basis. And it's a genuine honour and a privilege to be able to lead that programme and see every day the difference it makes in communities. And I've heard you were just all out dancing in the foyer, so I hope you're suitably mixed and moved, because that's the sort of thing we can do to unleash the power of communities. And that's what we're going to speak about today. I'm delighted to be joined by Amy Vaughan from Arts Council England, lovely Linda Monckton from Historic England, Helen Shearn from a project we have in Kirkham, and Stuart Cox from St Margaret's House in London. Stuart's got some fans in the room. Very nice, sir. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how our respective organisations and projects work within communities to improve lives, to really build supportive and impactful communities. And I'm going to hand over to Amy to begin with that. So arts and wellbeing is obviously a huge part of building a wonderful community. Would you like to tell us more about how that might happen?
I would love to tell you more about how that might happen. Hello, everybody. At the Arts Council, a lot of what we do is pretty bureaucratic. We have to sit behind our desks and we deliver our funding agreements and we make decisions, and our days often go by just doing that stuff. And the time that it's brought to life and the time that you get to connect with the communities that are benefiting from the funding is the times when you go, that's why we do the job. That is the reason why you go to work and do these jobs. And I just, because the Arts Council, it is, it's a funding agency, and we give out national lottery money and government money. I just wanted to share with you our strategy, which might sound awfully dull, but it's a lovely, lovely film, and it's only 90 seconds long. But I just felt it would set the context for those of you that aren't necessarily familiar with what we do. It's definitely not that one. That's definitely not our strategy film, but whenever you're ready, I think it's on.
I think we may have had an unfortunate technical hitch here.
There it is. Create a country united by culture to be happier, healthier, excited, inspired, to make sense of our world, sense of ourselves, comforting the lonely, helping kids become grown-ups and grown-ups become kids again. Bringing us all together with the freedom to ask difficult questions and take a stand, to make your mark and make a difference, where your age, your colour and your bank balance don't matter, where it's about who you are, not where you're from, about what you do, not what you can't. For the change the worlders and the just for funners, the kids with ambition and the ambitious with kids. In villages, towns and cities, in playgrounds and packed concert halls, in rooms above pubs and festivals in fields, playing to crowds of thousands and audiences of one. Now, let's create.
So that's Let's Create, that's our strategy, and it's a pretty simple message really. It is about creativity. It's about creativity being at the heart of people's lives, being part of their well-being, being part of their community, and being part of the country that we all live in. And the reason I wanted to share that is because it's a new strategy for the Arts Council. We put it out in 2020, and then there was this pandemic, and actually, whilst at the beginning we thought, oh my goodness, this is going to really hinder getting this strategy delivered and getting things started, actually it's been a real clarifier that it's the right strategy at the right time, and it's exactly what we should be doing. And I'm sure many of you will recognise within that film there are all sorts of things in there that really resonate with social prescribing and working in communities, because actually we can't achieve all the stuff we want to achieve in our strategy unless the way that we're working and the projects that we're funding and the people that we're connecting with are feeling that stuff and feeling what it is that we want to do. So there's three parts to our strategy. There is people having creative lives, so individuals living a creative life. There is communities being cultural and exciting and creative. And then there is the whole country as a whole being creative and being recognised globally as a great cultural country. And so it's the communities bit that I just wanted to share a bit of, I guess, kind of personal experience of working in communities in the context that I work with them, because as I say, I spend an awful lot of time behind a desk. But for 8 years, I've been part of a team. The Arts Council's divided out into area teams, and I've been part of the South East team who work across the east of England and the South East of England. So we've kind of donutted around London. And about 7 years ago, I can still remember this meeting we had really, really vividly, where we were like, how can we possibly, as an agency, be working in museums, in libraries, in theatres, in galleries? Where's the like unifying language for all these different types of disciplines and art forms that we're trying to support? And we just all looked at each other and we just said, we need to work in places. We need to go to places and connect with those places and see what it is they've got there, what it is they want there, and then start to build from that point upwards. And from that was born this, this is a terrible phrase, and we were just talking backstage that we create language all the time, but a place-based approach was born, and we have talked about our place-based approach ever since, and actually this strategy now really embodies that, and it's fantastic because it means it's something that we will do nationally and consistently. We were all doing it anyway, but in slightly different ways, and now we're going to have some real joined up thinking around that, which is great. But by going into places, it kind of activated us in a different way, and I was very lucky to be told that I could go and work in Great Yarmouth, and I love seaside towns. I'm such a softie for a seaside town and an end of a pier show. I just love all of that stuff. So I was delighted to go to Great Yarmouth. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm really happy. So with a little team of us off to Great Yarmouth, talking to the people that were there and actually being there and listening to people and finding out, like, we don't have the resources and the capacity to have 10 people working in Great Yarmouth constantly every day. But what we did have was people that could try and just connect some folk up and find out what was going on and say, what could we do for you? How can we convene something in a way that is really meaningful and makes something happen here? And the reason I use the Great Yarmouth example is that I stopped working with the East team in December, but I was falling asleep listening to the radio the other night, and they were on the Radio 4 front row. They did a whole thing on the arts in Great Yarmouth. And there was all these people that I'd been working with for years, chatting away about, and I run the watercolour class down on the seafront, and in the holiday season, there's loads of people. And like, they were so enthusiastic about it. Didn't mention their funders once. It's like, come on, folks, we've trained for this moment. Seriously. I thought, we'll forgive you, but the local authority will be very upset. But, joking aside, they were interviewing the people that we'd been working with for years, who were community artists, who were people that were working and had been working in their community for years. And they were being recognised as part of the cultural scene. And it wasn't just that, we've got a theatre and a gallery, and we've built a lovely new gallery and lots of tourists come to see it and all of that sort of stuff. It was, we run the community art classes. I'm a graffiti artist and I work with kids in the local school. It was like the really tangible stuff actually makes a difference to a lot of people's lives. And so I think from my perspective, this idea about how you unleash the power in communities from a funder's perspective, from a development agency perspective, has got to be, what are the really smart interventions that we can make with our, we have a kind of convening function, which I think is really useful and we should use as an opportunity, because often we can go somewhere and say, we were going to have a round table. Who wants to come along and be part of this? You know, and then the word spreads and people are like, can I come? Can I come? Can I come? And as long as you say yes, then I think you're being a good development agency. If you say no, then you're being terrible. So I think that kind of working in that way has been a real lesson for the Arts Council, and it's really genuinely changed the way we work. And I was reflecting being here today, like we've all been locked at home. We have not gone back into our offices yet. You know, there's some people using offices, but as an agency, we're all still at home. And coming here and you go, oh, people, yes, I remember this. I remember these conversations and how ideas get sparked, and just remembering why we're here. And that's why I wanted to play that video again. It's like, let's just remember what it is we're trying to do, because what happens when we work collaboratively with our partners in these places and we actually focus on a common language, it's absolutely transformational. And I think our Creative People and Places programme, which is a 10-year action research programme, which really genuinely starts with the community. It's absolutely grassroots. Nothing happens unless it's come from the community. I want to pull out of the air how many Creative People and Places projects there are, but Dulcie? I think 34. And they're in places that have been identified by DCMS's Active Lives survey as where the population has the lowest engagement in culture and what you'd recognise as culture. But, you know, what is culture? Question. Those projects have really influenced our strategy. They've been going for 10 years now, the earliest ones. And again, they've been transformational for the communities that they're based in. And what's really great, and I'll shut up in a minute, but what's really great about those projects is people look over the fence and go, hang on, what? That looks good. You're getting those results. That's amazing. We want to do that. And to round that off, Lowestoft, which is but 5 miles down the road from Great Yarmouth, are going great guns on working around culture and creativity because they've seen what it's done. They've seen the results of it, and now they want to do it too. So there's something here, I think, about, you know, sharing best practice, sharing what's working, and being passionate about it and advocating for it. People do turn around and go, oh, I think we might have a go at that as well. And I think that's what Thriving Communities is doing as well. I think that is, you know, people are looking and going, this is a really, really exciting thing, and it's having genuine results. So how do we work together collaboratively to take the learnings from that and push that forward? And I think that's all I'll say on communities.
Oh, thank you.
That's okay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I think it can't be overstated how much of an impact creativity has on health and well-being and building communities in place. And I think the work you're doing at Arts Council is fantastic. As one of our value delivery partners, I just want to say thank you. I also think it would be remiss of me to say that the relationship between NASP and the Arts Council has been built from scratch with the help of a chap called John McMahon. Unfortunately, it's John's last day today, so I think it would be wrong of us not to give John just a little thank you. Sorry, John. One of our other fantastic delivery partners in the Thriving Communities programme are Historic England, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Linda Monckton. Unfortunately, Desi Gradianov was unable to make it, and if she is watching at home, please get well soon, Desi. But I'm going to hand over to Linda now, who can tell us a little bit about the work that's going on in her sector.
Thank you. Well, I was going to start by saying that I think in a way I do feel genuinely grateful about the relationship that we have with the National Academy of Social Prescribing, because it resonated with what one of the speakers said earlier today, which is that really good partnerships are based on where you match up your shared objectives. So if you looked at us from the outside, we're doing completely different things, but because my brain works in Venn diagrams, it's a perfect Venn diagram of all those bits in the middle that we want to do together about working with people. Now, Historic England is an organisation which aims to champion and protect the historic environment. So we deal with stuff. It can be round or pointy, it can be under the ground or above the ground, but basically it can be a big landscape. But we deal with looking at that stuff and saying why it's interesting and trying to protect it. But we do that through our future strategy by the reason that we do that, as articulated through our future strategy, is to improve people's lives. And it's very easy to say, and I, like Amy, you know, as a strategist, you kind of come up with these grand terms. But as head of Wellbeing and Inclusion Strategy, part of my job is to say, well, what does that look like what do we actually mean by that when we're talking about well-being and health? And how can we deliver it? And I think our partnership with NASP has really helped us understand how we can deliver it tangibly in a way that it meets need. Because one of the things that's really easy to do is to, as a strategic organisation, is to work in a local place, helicopter in, work in a local place and go, ooh, it's really interesting. Engage the self-selecting people that come along to your lovely town hall meeting or your engagement activity and go, oh, I'm sure they felt better at the end of it, oh, we special. But actually what we want to do is to work with intent, is to actually go, what is that local need? And for a strategic body, that's quite hard. We're not on the ground all of the time. And the only way to deliver that is with other people, is with people who are on the ground all of the time. So we do various things within the kind of wellbeing and heritage team, which is me and Desi, so huge team that we are. And some of that work is about research. What is the relationship between wellbeing and heritage? Like, what does it actually look like? What makes a difference and how? And some of it is about, innovative pilots, and some of it is about, working with others and supporting the Thriving Communities programme to go, what works? And there isn't time to go into all of the things we do in that area, but by chance, just a few days ago, we did launch our latest edition of our research publication that summarises all of our latest research, which by chance is dedicated to wellbeing and heritage. Yay. So if you Google, and other search engines are available, the words historic England and latest research, it should pop up by magic. And that will at least give you an overview of some of the research projects that we're doing and some of the projects and case studies that we've been involved in. And Helen in a minute is going to talk about one of those. So as well as all of that work, we do, as indeed reflecting what Amy said, we do place-based work, and we have regional teams that go out and work in combination with local authorities to say this place needs revitalising. The historic buildings are run down and the high street isn't functioning, and we invest money and resources with that local authority to try to kind of build a slightly better quality of place. And one of the programmes that we're doing at the moment, which is called High Street Heritage Action Zones, is in Kirkland in Lancashire. And I have to say that the reason that we're involved in Kirkland, we're involved as an organisation in Kirkland. We funded them to do their high street has, as we call them. But the reason that I'm involved in Kirkland is because the lead in the local authority, Andrew Chatterjee, I think single-handedly has said, this cannot work unless we embed wellbeing in it from the beginning. And he approached me, and we've been working together to commission Helen to do all the hard work, really, basically, which is to work out what does that look like on the ground? How could we embed social prescribing in a thing that started off as we must revitalise our high street? And what is the community and cultural connections between those that can enable some kind of social prescribing delivery? So that's why Helen is here, really, to articulate all the really difficult, complicated stuff that she's been doing. And what I really hope, and I hope I can speak on behalf of Helen and Andrew here, is that this will be a kind of flagship project for us, that as we move forward and do more and more place-based work, we can look at how do we embed wellbeing with intent from the beginning, and how can we use social prescribing to help us deliver that to a particular local need. So I think I'll shut up there, actually, and hand over to Helen to talk about the nitty-gritty.
Thank you, Linda, and hard work of a lot of people, actually, and also the research journal that you mentioned. I've got a slide for it, so there's a web link there. So thank you, and I'm delighted to be here to share the Heritage Health and Wellbeing programme that we've been working on in the historic market town of Kirkland in Fylde in Lancashire, northwest England. So I'm a consultant in arts, heritage, health and wellbeing with over 20 years experience in the NHS, and I'm an occupational therapist as well. This programme is part of a larger regeneration 4-year programme, as Linda mentioned, and part of the historic High Street Heritage Action Zone in partnership with Fylde Borough Council, managed by Andrew Chatterjee. The town also received future High Street funding. So last March, myself and colleague Ferry Van Dyke of FDVD Consulting were commissioned to undertake a feasibility study to assess local demand, population health, the current social prescribing offer and infrastructure, mapping assets and researching the potential for an appropriate social prescribing delivery scheme using heritage-based activities We've received brilliant support and advice from colleagues such as at Lancashire County Council and the NHS and others. We designed and planned a heritage health and wellbeing programme incorporating social prescribing, and I've been coordinating its first year implementation, which started last autumn, and Ferry has been undertaking community consultation and in-depth research on heritage trails. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, that's it. This is the research journal that Linda mentioned, and we were really delighted that the front cover is the amazing cotton dance heritage performance that we commissioned in October, and the market square that you might recognise from the original photograph at the beginning. So this is by About Time Dance Company, who do heritage-based dance pieces, and it's based on the lives of women working in the cotton mills, and we also had schoolgirls from the local school, Car Hill School, performing, which was wonderful. In the article that Andrew and myself wrote, which was published last month, as Linda said, we talked about sort of Kirkland forging a heritage programme as a bridge to wellbeing. So, and I like to refer to it as a sort of bridging aspect because of the sort of aspects around restoring and supporting assets, mapping and navigating, making foundations and alignments. And just to mention as well that Lancashire has got a huge heritage around textile production, and was actually, Kirkland was called the Cotton Town with its flax mills, which have now gone. Next slide, please. So in the feasibility study, we looked at improving personal and community wellbeing using the architecture of social prescribing. We referenced the conceptual framework, community spirit level by the Royal Society for Public Health, here in the diagram on the left, with its 4 elements to improve community wellbeing: good relationships, collective action, and by harnessing community assets, a sense of belonging, cohesiveness and inclusion. From consultation with those stakeholders and cross-referencing local and regional heritage case studies and research, we proposed 4 overarching heritage themes and activities for the programme, here on the right. So we have sustainable textiles, life stories and memories, healthy living and food, heritage skills and craft. We showed how the programme could contribute to the NHS long-term plan with its whole systems approach, working better together, making better use of resources, assets, and supporting health priorities. We referenced the literature on social prescribing, referral routes, and link workers. And we have evaluation by independent researchers to understand the impact of the pilot programme, and the Kirkland Futures website, where the overall programme is there. Next slide, please. So here we have the map of the particular primary care network that we're working with, and the green area is the WREN primary care network, or Wire Rural Extended Network, and Kirkland is kind of on the bottom of that green area, quite close to the blue patch. So we're really excited about this innovative proposal that we're still working up and needs to be signed off. So this is with the WREN primary care network and the 2 GP practices in Kirkland, Ash Tree House and Surgery, and Kirkland Health Centre. So the proposal is for a local heritage health and wellbeing coach, jointly funded, so using the additional roles funding, and that post holder would be based with those 2 GP practices and working with the rest of our programme, the social prescribing programme and the link workers that are attached already. So Andrew Chatterjee, Lindsay Beniston, the WREN business manager, and myself have been having detailed strategic meetings to design and align this new special post in collaboration with NHS England, Lancashire and South Cumbria Primary Care Training Hub, the CCG and the ICS, and Historic England and filed. So we've got quite a lot of partners just to kind of sign it all off, but we're hopefully almost there, and we would then be advertising and recruiting for this really kind of special role, really innovative, and evaluate it as well, and this would be for 2 years. Next slide, please. So the other essential keystone in our bridge building was the commissioning of a pilot social prescribing programme called Phoenix Rising, using heritage-based activities. So Phoenix Rising were already delivering across Central and North Lancashire and South Cumbria with the Thriving Communities Fund. So it was absolutely fantastic that they could actually come and work in Kirkham really quickly, kind of work for us for a pilot. And Phoenix Rising is made up of Green Close, the Gathering Fields Eco Retreat, Lancashire Wildlife Trust and Mandela CIC. So we thought it'd be really beneficial to learn from what they've been doing already during the lockdown of last year, the sort of marketing and the relationships. So they provided tasters in November and December, and then regular weekly sessions from January in these range of things to do with sort of combining movement, art, nature. And we're going to have textiles and herb gardening in the library soon. Well, actually, it's already started, actually. So they've been doing a great amount of marketing, both social media and printed posters in shops and all sorts of things, and lots of self-referrals. And this is being evaluated with bespoke surveys and focus groups and a report in June. And also what was really brilliant was that Phoenix Rising already have a partnership with the Lancashire and South Cumbria Recovery College. So I know that from my experience working with Recovery College in South London and Maudsley NHS Trust, that is a really good way of working together, providing educational sessions. So next slide, please. So combined activities involving art, nature and movement that will draw on the distinct heritage themes of Kirkham. And this phrase, culture therapy, was referenced by the Restoration Trust in the Creatively Minded and Heritage Report of 2021. And here's some photos. So there's Michael's Church, which has been a venue for some of the sessions, the cooking together, the cooking, and I'll talk about St Michael's Church in a moment. Next slide, please. So what was really wonderful is that already there was Kirkland Treasures, which is a culture programme that started last year, also funded by Historic England. So they've been doing a lot of groundwork, lots of co-production events, talking to people, all sorts of installations and a trail, and just recently Kirkham with Love, storytelling and capturing love stories and things like that. So they put together this map with Kirkham Grammar School, and I think it really highlights the kind of wonderful things that could be discovered. That I mean, Kirkham's got a huge history with Roman remains of a fort. There's a Roman boss shield that was discovered in Carhill, and the original is in the British Museum. And also what's exceptional is the history of Kirkham Club Days, which are kind of, there's a few of them in the Fylde area, and Kirkham actually means church town, and there's a lot of churches in Kirkham, and they all come together to do this incredible procession with brass bands and beautiful kind of community involvement. And obviously they've not been able to for the last 2 years, but they hope to in June. And it's a really important part of Kirkham and Wesham. So we think it's really important to discover and look after these treasures in Kirkham, the histories, the memories, the stories, the assets, to support the individual and community wellbeing. Next slide, please. So almost the final slide. So this is what we're proposing to do next stage, really, and it's all to do with layering up and co-production and kind of building on those wonderful things that we've discovered that are there in Kirkham. So we've been commissioning some new projects that are built on that. So we were really pleased to be able to view the local history collection of Martin Ramsbottom, who's known as an authority on Kirkham, and bequeathed his collection of local history documents and papers and all sorts to St Michael's Church. And so they are actually launching a new heritage and history centre there, and Adrian Long is supporting it. We also received expert advice from Lancashire Archives and Museum Service on digitising, conserving, exhibiting the archives, etc. So that was wonderful. And Phoenix Rising will co-produce a heritage trail, an object handling box on textiles with a new community heritage group and artists, building on from what they've been delivering already. And some of those members are really keen to take part. So genuinely co-production there. And Helen Just and Kirkland Treasures, as mentioned, will be commissioned to collect more oral histories and produce other events. So we're kind of dovetailing the work that they're doing and make it more accessible so we can look towards other kinds of wellbeing activities with these heritage-based activities. And Sewing Rooms will put on their Age of Inspiration social and wellbeing event for isolated older adults, and that will be supported by Carhill School, their Duke of Edinburgh scheme. There's also a planned wonderful Heritage and Eco Skills Centre at a building called Hillside that's empty at the moment, and an arts and community cinema. So hopefully we'll be able to build in a programme there. And I know that the Wren PCN and Lancashire South Cumbrian NHS Recovery College are really interested in that as well. So we'll continue with the evaluation, consultation, we've got a consortium as well that will sustain and look for further opportunities for those pathways for training, volunteering, networking with the architecture of social prescribing. Essentially continue to support the 4 elements to improve community wellbeing and individual wellbeing. And last slide. And so, last slide, please. Thank you. So I'm really privileged to have been working on this programme in Kirkham and to present here. Here are my details if you'd like further information, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helen. The breadth of the work you're doing in Kirkham absolutely astonishes me, and I just think it speaks to how important these partnerships across sector are, because we can bring in so much expertise and so much passion into the work that's happening in communities. And someone else who has an incredible diversity of work that's happening within his organisation, St Margaret's House, is Stuart Cox, who is going to tell us a little bit more about how you're working in London.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Stuart. I'm the Arts and Wellbeing Director and Deputy CEO at St Margaret's House. We're an arts and wellbeing hub, and we're based in Bethnal Green, and we've been in Tower Hamlets, and we've been really lucky to have been one of the 36 Thriving Communities projects across England. And I suppose I'm just going to give you a little bit about that journey and how it's kind of what impact and kind of, you know, the effect it's had on us. Actually, it's been an absolutely overwhelming project and absolutely brilliant. And I've been reflecting a lot because it's you know, nearly a year down the line, and it has felt like putting on a workshop of a big new musical. That's the only way I can kind of describe the kind of element, exactly. But that idea that there is, when you put something like that on, there are so many different elements. You have, you know, a choreographer's point of view, you have a director's point of view, actor's point of view, musical director point of view, a set designer's point of view. That has kind of been the same with this project, where there's been so many partnerships, relationships to be built, and to build something cohesive and build a project that works across our community and come together and trial something completely new. So from that aspect, it's been really, really exciting, and it's been a really, really exciting year. Our project is called The Health Tree, and it has 2 major elements, really. One of which is the delivery of activities where we're working in partnership with lots of lovely organisations, and that includes Spare Tyre Theatre, Fevered Sleep, Outside Edge, a health organisation that addresses health inequalities in the East End called Social Action for Health, and a more strategic partner, London Arts and Health, who I have to champion a lot, because I don't think that we'd have been able to get the funding without their help and without their stewardship. So we've been having a wealth of activities delivered, which has included COVID cafes for people recovering from COVID. We have had acupuncture, woodwork. I believe there was a film showed of our woodwork project this morning, dance workshops, fitness. They've happened all across the borough. And another element of the project has been a kind of more strategic element, which has been about opening up a conversation about what social prescribing is and how how that can be raised, how the awareness can be raised amongst everybody in our community, and having opportunities to ask the question, what is social prescribing? How does it work? What is the relationship between activities, service providers and link workers or social prescribers or GPs? And what we found is that there was a lot of people who wanted to find out more. So we've had a kind of networking element where we've had regular meetings and opportunities for anyone interested to kind of ask and talk to social prescribers. It's been really interesting that for us, the fascinating thing is actually what, as arts providers or cultural providers or local providers, is we've been fascinated by the conversation that goes on between a social prescriber and a patient, and wanted to find out how that worked, and kind of that was a real mystery, and having the opportunity to ask those questions has been brilliant. And alongside that, there's also been live kind of events to kind of celebrate social prescribing in an area, and that's where we had an amazing one in October, of which Joshua, you came to, and John came to, and was amazing for the community to come together. I know we was asked to kind of reflect on kind of what we've kind of learned or what the community has gained, and I was kind of thinking about that a lot, and I sort of feel like one of the things that's happened for us is the idea of a kind of awareness raising that health, well-being and arts can be delivered in a multitude of places that maybe you wouldn't expect. In the case of our project, it's delivered in a church, activities are delivered in a shop, they're delivered in a hall, they're delivered digitally. We have a massage, Charlotte, that's a kind of group one in a kind of hall, a kind of, our woodwork is in the shop. And that has been a really kind of awakening in the community. For us as an organization, a year and a half ago, I probably couldn't have told you anything much about social prescribing. It's been a real learning experience, but we had a sense of it going on within our organization, but couldn't quite grasp it. And this project has really been able to help us get much more of an understanding and grasp, how it works. And we now know that, like in our project, where we had a feeling that there was like 4 or 5 people benefiting from our services that are socially prescribed, we now then know that's gone up significantly, which is brilliant. We kind of knew who our kind of social prescriber was around the corner. This project has enabled us to develop a relationship with 16 social prescribers across the borough, which for us is amazing. And the other thing I think leading on from that we've kind of gained, or there's been a shift, is I think there's just been an openness. This project has opened up an openness with everybody from community, service providers, link workers, Tower Hamlets GP Care Service, who is our social prescribing service, who have been amazing to have conversations, and I suppose go above and beyond the systems that are in place. I know that, like, for example, there's a traditional, if you want to kind of, the clarity the system is called in Tower Hamlets, where you put your activity on, but actually what this project has done is bring us all together to have conversations and absolutely raise awareness of each other and trial things new and do things differently. And I think the best evidence of that is coming up to our next public event, which is on March the 10th, celebrating Social Prescribing Day. Everyone is being involved, everyone is doing something, and our Tower Hamlets social prescribers are going to be putting on a brief play to describe that conversation I was talking about that we all want to know more about, which I think is brilliant. And that whole idea about different organizations working together, one of the things that's been really impressive about Social Action for Health, who are kind of, I would say, the health organization in our partnership, is actually, and they say, oh, we love working with the arts. It's an absolutely different approach. Your meetings are so much more interesting for a start. But I'm like, but actually look at the way you're delivering your activity. You're doing a dance project, and within it, you're embedding IT skills and language and culture skills. And that has been brilliant, that whole learning from each other. And I suppose the other thing that's been amazing for us is the relationship with organizations like NASP, London Arts and Health, which has led us on to be able to meet and talk with the culture team at the GLA and Claire Lovett, who was, I think, here. And and to be in the room having conversations and to be talking about where we go next with this and be able to kind of share that has been amazing. So for us, it has been an absolute whirlwind of a project. I go back to that analogy of this idea of a workshop. And I would say that now this has started for us, we can't go back. So we have to figure out how we move forward and how we work together to take this amazing kind of like learning that we've done forward. So that has been our experience. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Stuart. And I will say that live event that St Margaret's House put on was the first live event I'd been to after 3 lockdowns living on my own, and I genuinely cried. To see that sense of community and those relationships building in a room in front of your eyes in 3D for the first time in like 2 years was just immensely powerful. And I use the words relationship there because I hope the panel would agree with me that all of this is about building relationships. It's about building relationships across sectors. It's about building relationships within communities. It's about opening up whole new worlds to people who are experiencing a lot of this for the first time. And the Thriving Communities programme, its very heart is about supporting those communities and making sure that people are ready to receive social prescriptions, are engaged, involved, building networks, knowing who to lean on for support. And when we say who to lean on for support, the very heart of the Thriving Communities programme is our incredible regional leads, who I all see sat there in a row. So if I can't overstate the amount of work that they do within their regions to support this sector, so I want to give them a round of applause as well, please. Clapping yourself there, Esther, very good. Because I am a dreadful chair, I'm afraid we have run out of time and do not have time for questions. However, I will be floating around in the foyer, as I'm sure my wonderful panel will be here. So if there's anything anyone wants to know, please do come up to me, say hi. I'd like to thank my panel again. It's been incredible to hear your stories. And I'd thank all of you for sticking with this throughout the entire day and still remaining at the last panel of the day. I guess that's me. Thank you so much. I hope you've all had a really wonderful day, and I hope we all get to see you in person again very soon. Cheers.